Okay, I had a customer who called yesterday. It took till today for me to call him back. That had an issue with his system. He was thinking that he had an issue with his system, but I think it's more related to his setup. So he does some flags, and if you look, I think you can see that these first three sets of these first three rows of stars are one size, and then they seem to creep up in size, and then up again, and probably stay at that size, maybe going down a little bit here. So I think what happened, and the vectors of the star were copied from one row to the other, as far as I know. And he's cut this pattern before, and before it worked out great. But he's seeing a difference now in the way these ended up cutting out. And I think what happened was his material is not flat. So if you think about it, when you touch off on your tool, say you touch off on this corner, but this is a little higher here, and it's expecting, say this panel, this piece of, say it's cherry, is the same exact height as this, then that is the way your stars should be. But if this piece, or here, is a little higher, and this piece is higher, then the cutter will be going deeper. And if you think about it, let's go into VCarve. Say you're doing anything. He also had a problem with some engraving that was a very fine line engraving that in some cases it was fine, in other cases it was hard to read or non-existent. So I'm going to work with this K here, and this is a double line K. And you have to think about it. When you go to tell it that you're going to VCarve with an engraving toolpath, you'll pick your tool, and it will set the depth of cut unless you set it here with a flat depth, and that's the deepest you want it to go. But depending on what tool you use here, it will affect how deep the cut is if you have not turned on flat depth. So let's think about this. He was using a 90-degree V-bit. It's roughly this. I just sketched this out real quick using VCarve. But the distance from this edge of the cutter and this edge of the cutter is approximately the distance across here. So it would take this 90-degree V-bit and apply it to the line and have one edge of the cutter here kissing this line and one edge of the cutter here kissing this line. And it will vary the depth based on how wide that font is. This font is basically always the same depth until it comes to here. So right here, it would make it deeper so that one edge of the cutter's here and one edge of the cutter's here. Because it's a wider path, it'll go deeper there and then shallow up a little bit. This gives a great look to engraving, but that's with a 90-degree bit. If you use something much tighter angle, again, I just drew this. I don't really care what the angles are. It's to teach. This, again, from here, this edge of the cutter to this edge of the cutter is approximately as wide as it is from here to here. So, but look at the depth difference. So this is going to go down this far, and this is going to go down only this far. Okay, not a big deal, but if you think about it, it does make a difference. So I did a single line font here, and I took this top line, and I said, okay, let's use this and go 1/8 of an inch deep, but let's use his 90-degree bit. So I use his 90-degree V-curve, okay? We'll calculate it. That's profile 1. I don't care to look at it. I'll go to profile 2. That's here. That's 20 thousandths deeper. So that's a 0.125 plus 20 thousandths. That's 0.145, and we'll change back to the 90-degree V-bit. I don't care which size. It's 90 degrees for this. Some of the kerning, the joining of the lines is not right. Again, doesn't matter for what we're doing today in this video. And here I'm going to go 0.165, and I don't know what that was with 40 passes, but we're going to do a 90-degree V-bit and calculate. I'm going to reset the preview, blow this thing up, and we'll take all three of those different profiles. So this top one is 0.125 deep, 0.145 20 thousandths more, and 0.165 40 thousandths more than the first one. And we'll preview the visible parts. So you can see the difference in depth just by changing from here to 20 thousandths deeper to 40 thousandths deeper. That's significant. So my guess is that if he threw a level or a straight edge on this material, here, it would be humping up here on this end as the stars got bigger because the depth of cut was changing. So assuming he touched off his tool here. And this could be flat, but if it's flat between here and here, it's not the same distance. So if you slap some calipers on it, I'm sure this distance would be smaller than this distance in the thickness of the slab. So if he touched off on a low point or a less deep piece of the material, it would be the smaller stars, because that's what the system is looking at for determining the depth of cut. And then where the slab gets thicker, it's actually cutting deeper into the material, but the tip of the tool is still coming out. The final depth is the same depth as right here, but it's going to look like a bigger star or a bigger engraving. So the same thing is going to be applicable to his engraving where he had problems. I'll pull that up. That's here. Very light here, getting a little better, but still not easy enough to read. And here. So what we're going to suggest he does is surface his spoil board so he has a nice flat spot to put the panels on, and then surface his material. Run the same program that he's already got. Doesn't have to change anything. Just rerun it, but have everything flat. And I think he'll find that he'll get a very nice product that will give him all the same size stars and a readable font, assuming he's cutting deep enough. But that's the interesting part, is to think about what the bit is doing in the material to get the width of the cut. So this was done with the engraving, and this was done, these were all the 3 Curtis, that's the art studio next door. So these Curtis were done using a profile cut on the line. If you have a single line font, and you can do a profile cut, you don't have to use an engraving font. It's not changing depth, it's keeping that same stock depth no matter how because it's single lines. But you see the difference between a 0.125 and a 0.145 and a 165. So that's 40 thousandths of a difference between here and here. It's not much. That's less than 3/64ths of an inch. The guys that work in metric, yeah, it's a little easier to understand. But this shows the difference in what we're doing here. So that should help clean him up. He does have a surfacing bit. He just hasn't used it yet, so I'm going to do a separate video probably tomorrow. It's getting late tonight. I'm just beat. I'll do a quick video on how to do surfacing with V-Carve, to do a quick surfacing of a slab. His slabs are 19 by 37-ish, and he can do one, or he can set up multiples and just let it run while he's doing other things. Surfacing is a very quick, painless operation because you don't do a big depth of cut. You're just let the machine do its work. So I will let it go at that, and please don't hesitate to call or text or email if you have any questions. That's Eric Schiller with Yeti Tools Southeast. www.yetismartbench.com. Thank you.